Hi, and welcome to Aries Pond Boatyard. I'm Tony Davis, and I wanted to take this opportunity to do a video on the knots that are needed to safely sail on a catboat. We have winter coming, and it'd be a great time to practice your knots. I often see boats that have been rigged by the owner, and there's a lot of clips. Metal clips at the end of lines, and it tells me that they don't either know the knots or don't want to tie the knots. And my concern with metal clips to the end of the gaff or end of the topping lift or end of the sheet line, that metal clip could come undone or break at the worst possible time and cause problems out on the water, or possibly come loose and hit someone. So we're just going to go over some of the basic knots, and these knots that you tie last forever. Obviously you have to be checked now and then, but there's nothing like a good knot. I appreciate everybody's interest in our other videos we've put out, and one of the reasons also I'm doing this is that I kind of rushed through the knots, and so I want to slow it down and show you the knots that we talked about in the sailing video and the how to rig a catboat. Okay, so the first knot we're going to talk about, which again are in the videos, where I'm just going to take it slower and go through it, is the reef knot. Okay, when we're going to tie a reef in, we find we've already attached the tack and we've pulled out on the outhaul. So now we're going to tie off the reef points. And on a 14-foot, there's 5 reef points and there's only 1 set of reefs. So to tie a reef knot, we go around the boom, make sure we don't trap the sheet line or any other lines. And it's a series of loops. 1, 2. Okay, and you can even go 3. Cinch it up nice and tight, and it won't move, just like that. And then we put a locking bow on it, a one-legged bow I call it, and there is your reef knot. It's strong and easy to undo. So we decide we want to take the reef out, we pull on the bow, and it shakes loose. So let's do that one more time. A reef knot. Obviously really important knot to know, because we do a lot of reefing on catboats. And we don't want to just tie in any old knot, because if we can't untie it when we need to, it could potentially tear the sail. So here we go. We've got one end, starboard side, and the port side. Once, go around twice, which can work just fine. But to get a real lock, let's go around one more time. Cinch it up, and there. It's secured, but we need to lock it so as the tension comes on, it won't unslip. So we put a one-legged bow on top, and we have a reef knot. Untie it, and it's loose. All right, let's go to the slip knot, which is along the same lines as a reef knot. The slip knot is a knot we're going to use on our boat covers. So, especially on the open 16s and cabin 16s, there's a line that'll come off, and it'll go to a pad eye that's on the deck. And we want to tie a knot that secures the cover and won't come undone, but isn't a pain to undo. So it's very similar to a reef knot. So let's say this is our hook here. We're going to go around through the hook. So we take one pass, then we go over like we're doing a clove hitch, but we put a loop in it, like that. So we've got essentially a nice strong knot holding our cover down, but when we come up to the cover, or whatever it might be, in our dinghy, we can just pull on this working end and it comes undone, and we'll go along and do 2 or 3, and we can flip the cover over and climb aboard, and we're done. So let's do that again. Around once, around twice, like we're doing a clove hitch, which we'll get to in a minute. And we've got the working end, bitter end is loose, and when we want to undo it, we pull on it, it comes undone. Okay, slip knot. Let's tie the cleat. There's right ways and wrong ways to tie the cleat. You want, if this is the standing end or the working end, it's going to the dock, you want your lock to face forward. So as it's shifting at the dock, it's tightening up. So you tie a cleat, it's a figure 8. 1, 2, 3. And if it was a spring line and the working end was going that way, we'd have the lock aft. The work is going aft in this case, so we have the lock forward. Okay? There's no need to go around and around and around and around and then lock it, unless it's like you don't have, there's really no need for it. If the line is the right diameter for the weather or for the job it's needed to do, be it a dock line, an anchor line, a halyard, it's just once, and if in this case it's a small cleat, and that's also a defining factor in how big you can, or how many wraps you can make. That will do it. That's not going anywhere. You can rip again, the size of the line. The line's going to break before the cleat comes undone. But let's use this cleat as an example for a main sheet or a halyard. In that case, I don't recommend putting a lock on at all. So if you're sailing by yourself in gusty conditions, it's better to just go around a couple of times and leave it. So if a gust comes, it will loosen up, and that's better than having it tighten up with the lock. And then if things get really hairy for a second or two and you're trying to undo the main sheet and maybe a crew member is unaware that you have a lock on it, that could be enough time of fussing with it that maybe something bad could happen. So it's better for a halyard that the cleat is just goes around the figure 8 2 or 3 times and stays loose. I'd rather have it be loosening up than lock so tight that I can't undo it in an emergency. So that's the cleat. Let's go to the clove hitch. Clove hitch we use on our tiller tamers, and they're just a good handy knot to know. Clove hitch would go around whatever it is that we want to tie up. Anybody who's sailed with me, I call it the Paul Newman knot. In one of his cowboy movies, he comes up to the saloon with his horse, and he just does a quick clove hitch and walks into the saloon. And the way he's doing that is he literally flips it around, and it goes like that, boom, he's got a clove hitch. Let me slow that down and show you exactly what he did. So this is our tiller, goes around, under, and then over the working standing part. Sorry, this would be our standing, we're trying to hold, and then we come back under, I will do that again so you can see it, and we have a clove hitch. So it's over, under. Now, this other side, maybe you can see it better. Come over, on top, over and under. To lock the clove hitch, we can put 2 half hitches. And around and under, and we have a half hitch. That really holds the tiller tamers in place. I'll come around, put them on this side as well. So now I know my tiller, while it's sitting at the mooring, is going nowhere. I don't have shock cords, I don't have clips, I don't have things that could break. I've got knots that won't come undone. Let's do it again. Let's do the clove hitch one more time. I'll slide that one down. Over the top of the standing part. Under. Under, and then inside and over. So all these knots, if my description or if they're not quite seeing it, are all easy to find just by Googling the knot, and it might be a much better demonstration. But these are the knots. We'll review everything we did so you can take note of it and look them up, and maybe there's a better way that you can learn how to tie them. All right, let's do the stopper knot. On all our halyards on a catboat, they're long, just the way catboats are. The peak halyard, main sheet, runs all the way out. And if we have a line that gets away from us, and so the sheet line just wants to run out, it could just take right off and run right through or right up the mast. So it's really important that we put a stopper knot on at the beginning of our season. Stopper knot is the bitter end. Go around once, twice, then back through the loop we made at the beginning. We have a stopper knot. So as it comes up to the bitter end, it's going to stop on the jam cleat, or if it's through a cleat, it'll stop on the inside of the cleat, or on your halyard cam cleats. Let's do that again. Stopper knot. Working end, going up the mast, going out to the sheet line, bitter end, around once, around twice, back up through the loop that we started with. Stopper knot. All right, coiling. It's not really a knot, but there's an end to it that people ask me about all the time. Keep their lines ship-shape. So a coil, we make the distance that we want by lengthening the line using our left hand. If you're right-handed, obviously this is set up for doing it right-handed because I'm right-handed. Left-handed would be the opposite. So right hand, I have the line that I'm coiling in, and then I take the distance I need, which will be the sole to the fitting I'm going to hang it on, up and around, and I roll the line with my thumb into my right hand where the coil is beginning. And I see my thumb is rolling the line. What I'm doing is I'm getting the hooks or any knots in the line out, so it's a smooth run, so when it runs through the blocks it doesn't jam. It's called getting a proper lay of the line. So I'm in my left hand, I can feel these hooks. You see one right there? There's one right there. I'm shaking them out and using my thumb to get a nice smooth lay of the line. I'm going to go move a little faster because it's getting a little cold out here. So I got all kinds of hooks here, but they're all coming undone. And now I've got a nice finish here. I'm going to leave that much. And this is what I get asked about. How do you hang that line so neatly? Well, it's really simple. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that are so simple that you overthink it. It's just around once, around twice, then come back through like that, and you've got a hanging loop. I'm going to put a stopper knot on this because the boat might go out sailing. And there it is, ready to go. And when I get aboard, I know it was coiled properly. I pull it through, and I can take my line, lay it down, and it's ready to run through the block. Let's do a quick review and see what I forgot. So we did our most important knot is the reef knot. We did the slip knot. We went over the cleat, the clove hitch, the half hitch, and coiling the line. So the last thing to practice over the winter is if you're in a situation and you are alone and you need to tie a knot and you've got one hand kind of holding the situation that you have going on, be it the tiller or whatever it might be, you might have to tie a knot with one hand. So there's an overhand knot, but let me see what else I can come up with. So basically try tying a knot not using your hand or your eyes because you're busy doing something else, but you need a knot. So there's a square knot. There are times when you may need to lengthen the line that you have because it won't reach the dock or you've thrown the anchor. So and you need more line for the anchor. So one way, which I don't recommend, but you can do in a hurry, is a square knot. Okay, square knot is even lay, one over the other, comes together. It looks like a figure eight. Okay, and then you can lock that with a half hitch on either side. This guy is not going anywhere. You can hang on the anchor, get the extra line to the dock, whatever you need. But if there's a lot of tension, this thing is going to tighten up so that it'll be it could be very difficult to untie. So what instead of doing a sheep shank or something that takes a little longer, because you're kind of in a tight spot, what I recommend is just tie a bowline. Okay, I think we all know the bowline. You can look that up. And another bowline through the first one, the loop. Okay, now I've got two knots that will untie easily after a lot of tension. I've got to worry about chafe, but I would in both cases. But now I've made a longer line. If you're confident you can do a bowline on a bite, so just take the two ends and just tie one bolt. Okay. But that might want to take a little bit of practice to get it right. You can put a half hitch on the end of this as well, and that locks it even more. So again, if you're riding the night, stormy night, and you need an extra line on your anchor, this is a good one. All right, so that is what I wanted to show you today. So, funny story on the anchor. I don't have one here, but many years ago, I had a customer, and they were new to sailing, and the skipper told the crew member to throw the anchor over it because they were pulling up to a beach. So the crew member threw the anchor and the line and everything, and they had now had no anchor or no line. So the lesson from that is, remember to tie the end of the line to your bow cleat or wherever you want to secure the end of the anchor, so after you throw the anchor, the line is still on board. And that can be either a cleat or a bowline around the cleat. So I wanted to pay tribute to a dear friend who we lost in June. He was a master rigger, well known in the traditional boat world, schooners to small craft. His name was Brian Toss, and I had the opportunity to be an apprentice of his back in the 80s. He taught me wire splicing and many knots, which he tells you about in his first edition of his book, The Rigger's Apprentice, where if you pick this up, you'll learn just a boatload of information on knots and splicing. And then he did a second edition of that, and then he also did The Rigger's Locker and a couple other books. Brian Toss, like I said, was a dear friend, and we lost him as a young man, and I want to dedicate this video to him. Thank you very much, and thanks to Rory and my family for putting this together. Blaze, you ready to head out?